In this episode, we look at Unit 13, Systems, Plants and Animals, page 102 from our science workbook. Plants systems. Plants are living things all around us. A growing plant has different parts that perform different functions. These parts working together make up the plant system. The plant is made up of two main parts: the shoot, which is the part that grows above the soil, and the root, which is the part that grows below the soil. Shoot system. The shoot system of a flowering plant is made up of a stem, leaves, buds, and flowers. Functions of the stem. The stems of most plants hold up the leaves and other parts of the plant that grow above the ground. They space out the leaves so that they receive adequate air and sunlight. Stems have tiny tubes. These tubes carry water and mineral salts from the roots to other parts of the plant. Stems hold up flowers for pollination by wind or insect. Some stems store food and water, for example, Irish potatoes and yams, which are underground stem tubers. Functions of the leaf. Leaves are the food factories of a plant. In leaves, the plant combines chlorophyll, that is the green pigment, air, sunlight, and water to make food by a process called photosynthesis. The leaf allows the plant to breathe. A gas from the air called carbon dioxide goes into the plant through tiny openings on the back of the leaves. These openings are called pores or stomata. Let's look at the diagram on page 102 at the top right hand section. So we have a plant here. So we have the shoot system and the root system. So those are the two main sections of a plant. So the shoot system, everything that is above ground, and the root system, everything that is below ground. So let's look at the root system. We have the main root, that's also called the tap root. We have root hairs and we have lateral roots. Then we have soil level. So we're going to go now to the shoot system, everything above the soil. So we have the stem, the fruit, the flower, the leaf, and the bud. Okay, so let's move now from page 102 to page 103. Water evaporates from the pores of leaves by a process known as transpiration. This helps to cool the plant. The same way we are cooled by a process called perspiration, plants are cooled by the process called transpiration. Some leaves store food which is then eaten by animals, including humans. We now move to the root system. When a seed germinates, it begins to grow and develop. A single radical or embryonic root grows vertically down into the soil and develops into the root system of the plant. Lateral or side roots grow from the main root. The main root that can be recognized is called the tap root. When a seed from the grass and cereal group germinates, several roots grow out at the same time and lateral roots grow from them. There is no recognizable main root, and this is called a fibrous root. Functions of the root. Roots anchor the plant firmly in the soil. Some roots store food, which is then eaten by animals, including humans, for example, carrot and cassava. Roots help to keep the soil from being washed away or eroded. Next point, the root hair provides the main absorbing region of the root. Tiny root hairs cover the end of each root. Water and mineral salts from the soil enter the plant through the root hairs. The water moves from the root hairs into the root and then into every part of the plant. Here's an activity. Go outside and use a garden tool to dig up different types of plants. Compare the types of roots on each plant. Identify the tap root, lateral root, root hairs, and fibrous root. So we're going to look at the diagrams again on page 103, starting at the top to the bottom. To the top, we have the main or tap root. And then from that, we see the lateral roots branching off. We have the fibrous roots, where all of the roots look the same. We have a storage root, as in a cassava, being shown there. We move from page 103 to page 104. We look now at the reproductive structures of the plant and their functions. Reproduction occurs in plants as well as animals. The part of the plant responsible for reproduction is the flower. And here we have a diagram of the flower. So, and going in a clockwise direction, we have the stigma, the anther, the filament, the sepal, the ovary, the ovule, the style, and the petal. The flower is made up of different parts: the sepal, the petal, the stamen, and the pistil. The sepals are the outer parts of the flowers, consisting of several small green leaf-like structures which cover and protect the seed as it grows inside. The petals are often brightly colored and scented. These surround and protect the inner parts of the flower. They also attract insects which visit the flower and collect nectar and pollen, pollinating the flower. The male reproductive part of the flower is the stamen. Each stamen has a long green stalk called the filament. At the tip of the filament is the anther. It contains pollen sacs in which pollen grains are formed. The pollen grains contain the male reproductive cell, which are equivalent to an animal sperm. The female reproductive part of the plant is called the pistil. It consists of slightly swollen stigma at the top, then a slender stalk called the style, and a swollen ovary, which is at the bottom of the flower. Inside the ovary are small seed-like structures called ovules. These are the female sex cell. Each ovule has an egg cell. The male part from the pollen joins together with the female egg cell or ovule, and fertilization takes place. The first step in fertilization is pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the stamen to the ovule. Wind, insects, birds, or other animals may transfer pollen from the anther to the stigma. When the pollen grains reach the stigma, they produce pollen tubes which grow down through the style to the ovary. Each pollen grain carries a male sex cell, and when it reaches an ovule, it joins with the egg. After this process of fertilization, the ovary grows into a fruit and the ovules into seeds. Seeds are important to the plant because when they germinate, they develop into new plants. Note, the shape, size, and color of flowers are important factors in how they are pollinated. Insects, birds, or other animals pollinate most brightly colored flowers. Wind and water also move pollen from stamen to pistil. Wind-pollinated flowers are usually not brightly colored. Okay, so now we have the unit review. Answer the questions below on the spaces provided. 1a. What are the main parts of a root? 1b. How can you distinguish between them? Number 2. List 3 functions of the root. We move from page 105 and we go to page 106. Number 3. Name the 4 main parts of a flower and give a function of each. Number 4. What parts of the plant make the shoot system? Number 5. How are stems important to plants? Number 6. What is pollination? That's 6a. 6b. Give 2 ways in which pollen grains are scattered. Number 7. What is fertilization? 7b. Where does it take place in a flowering plant? Number 8. What is the main function of the leaf? Number 9. What do plants need to make food? Number 10. How is water carried from the root to the leaf of a plant. Number 11, use the given words root, leaves, stem, flower, and fruit to label this plant. And that's there at the bottom of page 106. Of course, as usual, you're going to finish your unit review and we will discuss our answers in class. In the next episode, we'll be looking at the human body systems. See you then.